Okay, so this is Kelly Borsheim here, and I'm going to do the second part of this mold using the Mother Mold, which will support this soft flexible road. Right now I have rubber put over my plastilina wax-based clay, which is my sculpture. It's a face. It's a relief, that's why you see it on the board here. The nose here is the highest part of the sculpture, although the eyebrows are also high. In fact, the eyebrows may be, no, I think the nose is higher. Anyway, I'm going to put the fiberglass in. Now, I'm only using up extra fiberglass that I had from another project some time ago. I have this bag right here. It looks kind of like a gray, sort of fibery clay, but it's glass fibers, okay? So I'm going to use this up. I'm not convinced that I have enough material to do this well, so I may focus here on the mouth because this is the part that's going to bend more. The head is wider. I don't know if I would finish the Mother Mold making a plaster all the way around it or what, because I have to do a plaster mold later too. However, right now what I wanted to show you is that I've got my two measuring things. This will be for this material here, and then I'll put the liquid, the activator, on this smaller thing. Now, I had an idea that when I turn this upside down and start to push concrete into it and fabric and different things like that, I wanted to see if it could be flat on the ground. So I came up with this idea here to put these blocks in and level them, and I had to add extra blocks the same thickness as this so that I have a stable thing, because I thought to put this board, and I'm picking the ugly side, okay, and I'm going to rest the board here, probably put it here because I don't have a lot of material, but what I want to do is see if I can make the fiberglass kind of be smushed down into a flat form so that I have a flat bottom to later put it in here. It's not a critical thing because I'm going to be pushing things into the mold, and it may not matter, but also by the time I even build up this section here, it could be that I just don't have enough material. So in that case, my first goal is to cover the whole thing, because I can always prop up with sandbags or blocks or any other little thing to get this to be stable on the other side. Okay, now the first and the most important thing I have to do is to put a releasant on the clay so that the clay does not stick to the fiberglass, okay? Otherwise, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. So this is something I bought from the same supplier as all these materials, so that's another reason I know everything was compatible. So this is called in Italian Distaccante Ceroso. It means it's not going to stick to it, and it's made from cera. Ceroso is waxy. So I'm going to put in some of this. This is a reason it's always good to have these random little cheapy paintbrushes in the way. And it's good to eat gelato so that you have containers that you don't have to worry about. And I'm going to paint this on. You know, the odd thing from my point of view, it stinks. The odd thing from my point of view is that they don't really put a lot of instructions on here. In fact, I made videos of the supplier when I went to talk to him so that I could have something to refer back to, because it's kind of like when you go speak to a doctor that you don't always get the information. You get the information, but you may not remember it because you're stressed or it's a lot to think about, and it's just easy to forget details. So this is what this material is here to separate the two mold materials, and that's all I got, you know. So it obviously doesn't take apart too, and I assume with the smell of this that it dries pretty fastly. And to be honest, when I used this in April, I forgot how much time it took. But I think basically you just paint it on, try to get it into every little crevice that you can. But it smells like it's an alcohol-based kind of thing. It says it's got wax in there, but the wax is going to be the thing that stops this from sticking. So I want to try to make sure I get it pushed into the brush, but also I'm kind of glad that it's sliding down around the wood board, because I also don't want the fiberglass to stick to the wood. And maybe, you know, the wood is even more of a concern sticking to it than the rubber mold, I'm sorry. I don't know, but wood is quite porous, and it could be an issue. So I'm just going to be quite liberal with this. Push it all the way around here. And I think that'll probably dry maybe 10 minutes or something. I don't think I waited a long time with that. It's not something like 24 hours. That would be ridiculous. But I'm going to just kind of go over this and go over this. And now, because I may get to this board idea, I'm going to choose my side here. That looks like a prettier side. And this one has some plaster in it, and it looks like there's a rougher texture. So I'm going to use this for my side. I'm just going to paint kind of in the middle here, because that's where I'll expect to have it fine. And put that there for ease of... And so I'm going to need to pour some more in. I don't know if this stuff evaporated that quickly or not. I may not need to use the gelato thing. Let me turn that upside down to get whatever I need out of that. It's going to be a little bit... Let's see how this goes. And I'm just going to paint this on, protect it. Maybe need a little more. Alright, that should probably do it, you know. Just some precautions, because, you know, you go to all that work and then you find out you have to break things apart just to get them to use it. On the other hand, if the fiberglass that I do have actually touches this board and sticks to it, well, then I've got a flat bottom of sorts, don't I? So... But, you know, if I want to reuse this mold more and more again, maybe this is not a bad idea to have it stick to this board and use the board, but I don't really think I want to waste a board. I find this stuff is really useful for a lot of things, you know. Alright, so I'm going to stop the video at the moment and clean out my brush so I can use it again for something. Make sure I've closed this material. And then I'm going to get on the gloves and just start mixing up fiberglass. I have already made a list here of the measurements that I got from the manufacturer, of many different measurements that when I put this material here, and then I can know how much of the liquid activator to get. Now again, as I mentioned in the earlier video, one of the problems with these two is I wasn't adding enough activator to the rubber, and I was adding on the high end, so it made me wonder if these two are calibrated to read the same number of grams. And that can be a problem because that's a variable. So I don't really want to mix fiberglass into this because this is clean and fiberglass will just be messy. This is actually a little bucket that I bought, a little bowl that I bought for when I was street painting, and I would collect money in this, which is why it has my name on it. But then when I moved up here, I used this for a water bowl for my dog because I wasn't doing street painting anymore. And now it's going to become my fiberglass thing because it's a nice big open bowl. I can mix things around. The sides are tall enough for the small quantities I want to mix at a time. Last time I did this mold, I had my neighbor was my assistant, and he was wonderful because he stayed on the mixing part and he did all the chemical mixing and all that, and I did the application. And then sometimes he would be ahead of himself for what I was putting on the thing, and he would help, you know, also apply the last minute stuff. So I'm going to quit talking and go take care of maintenance, and then we'll be back, okay, and do this fiberglass thing. Alright, so this is probably dry enough at this point. And hi, this is Kelly, and my name is Kelly Borsheim. I'm a sculptor, and I'm just trying to show you a little bit of some of the stuff I'm attempting to do. And remember we talked about zeroing out the scale. Put the bowl on so that all you're measuring is this becomes your zero, and try to make this come up to the zero here, okay? I'm actually using both cameras because I don't know how to do all this doing stuff for myself. So I'm going to put this where I can see the measurement. And I have my trusty dusty list. Good. Oh, you know what? That was sweet. So these black gloves apparently turned into this big long powder stuff. That is probably not what I want. They're probably crumbling and I just didn't realize it because they've been sitting aside from whenever I used them last. But I had these latex gloves did not work with this rubber. Look, it's turning it all black there. I don't think that's going to matter because whatever. But anyway, I may have to tear these off and go with what I've got underneath, but let's try this first. You see why I have a dirty house? So, anyway, get this. I already took out the twisty tie that was closing this, and this is the first time I've been doing this by myself again. So that looks like it's 150. I did do 150 is 18 grams. I may try this 150 first until I get used to it. So 150 says I need 18 grams of the liquid. So let me move this to where I can see if it's, okay, that's at 0. And I see it goes up to 20. Okay, that's a little bit too much. So I want to put this aside for now. I'm not very precise on the measurement stuff, so what I'm going to do is hope that enough of that stays in the bottle there that I'll get -2 grams. Okay. Let's try this for now and see what happens. Now, I was going to say, these things, these wooden blocks are something my friend October gave me. You'll note that there's a hole in those because she made a bunch of whole bases and to put metal pins in there and then use it to hold her plaster sculptures. And when she was moving out of a studio or gallery studio, she gave them to me. And I've been using them for all sorts of things. But in this case, I was trying to get something very consistently even so that I could keep my measurement down. It's so weird. This doesn't feel like it's enough liquid, which is the problem I had with the stuff last night. So, you know what? I think I'm going to add enough to where I get a mixture that I can remember from the year before. I'm not very good at cooking, and even though I should know how to measure chemistry stuff, because I know how to do that, but I find my personality does not, I have a big sabotage part in my brain, and so a lot of times I do things that I know I shouldn't be doing. Sorry, I'm trying to hunch down because I'm not really sure it's getting the top of my head at this point, but I didn't want to move the camera further back because then you can't see what I'm doing. But it's difficult to sit and work. So this is not feeling like it should be feeling. You see how it's not sticking together here at all? I don't know if I can see that on this camera here. So it makes me think that this scale down here is really bad. And I can probably do without it. So I'm just going to pull that in there and use all that stuff up. Call this a day. You know, I think this may qualify for you get what you pay for, because I went to the Chinese market and bought this thing for $3.50. That's not very much money at all, and maybe that tells me what a stupid thing I did, because good investment will pay off, wouldn't it? It was nice to have a scale. When I did this on my other mold, I recognized that my scale there wasn't precise enough for the rubber, so I asked my neighbor if he had something that was more, and he had a digital scale that was definitely more accurate. And so this is just not the consistency that I want. This probably needs to fall under the do what I say, not what I do. Because it's kind of, I don't think that it's a problem that this stuff is too old. It could be because I opened it back in April, but the fact that that's just in a plastic bag, it seems more like the idea is more to keep it out of dust and stuff from contaminating than it is actually to seal it into not having any air connection or something. Now this is starting to feel more like a moldable product. And see, this is the interesting thing. It's not like the fiberglass that I used in Texas when John and I did the molds together. That was definitely a stinky resin. You want to do that outside, certainly not in front of my fireplace. Oh, I've got to put another log on the fire. But my point in that is that this is a long, long time ago that I did a mold, and this was the next best thing, was to see what technology exists. And this stuff is very, very workable. I like it. Okay, so I'm going to start pushing this around. I decided to work with the mouth first, and I'll keep the whole of the mouth because I don't need, This is supposed to be a very rigid mold. I just need it sticking to itself. You know, I want to push it into the rubber so that it conforms to the shape of the rubber. And I talked about registering before, but I'm thinking this is such a small piece. You have the nose, you have the eyes. I mean, it's not really a complicated kind of shape to figure out what goes where and all that. So they're going to fit together, sort of, I guess if you want to think of it as naturally registered. Registrated. Good grief. I'm forgetting my language skills, and I don't know what the deal is with that. If that's just getting older, my brain, I don't know. Now, when I'm pushing this on the board, I'm trying to go a little bit over the edge of the rubber and have it come out onto the board. Not a lot, I don't need a lot. I just want to have some kind of edge to things, more to protect the rubber than not. Now, I don't know if you can see there, but there I saw after the fact, sadly, that I didn't have enough rubber there, and I was too lazy to go mix up a little bit more rubber. So I have a little piece that you can actually see the clay through there. The rubber just sort of tore because it was too thin, and I had not reinforced it. So I need to probably need to stick a fire. I don't really want my hands sticking into this, or the wood actually, but I don't want to have to start the fire all over again because that's kind of annoying. But anyway, and it may get too hot here, which is okay. So I ended up adding quite a lot of blue on that, and not particularly happy about that. But you know, the other concern, of course, is that if I use the wrong proportions on this and they aren't balanced out to have the supplies meet up well, then what can happen easily is that I don't have enough activator for the rest of this material, and then I don't have my mold finished, do I? But like I said, I don't. This was a Kelly measure, so it's really better off to measure chemistry with the scales and to do the right things. However, as I mentioned, if you don't have an accurate scale, then you're kind of wasting time until, you know, it could be that I'd say, okay, well, using that scale that I have to put in double or maybe only 50% extra or something like that. And the other thing is I want to knead this in. I think I put a little bit too much glue in this time. So I should probably move that off to the side, but I've dumped it on the floor because I don't want to touch it, and that gets it out of the way and I can pick it up at my convenience later. So I want to mix it. I'm looking at the color here to make sure that the gray is darkened places, because if I don't have the activator stuff in all parts of it, you can see how this is a light gray and that's a dark gray. So really mixing it is really important. And you know, I'm a little bit worried that this bowl is a one-shot deal. I'm going to have to start collecting throwaway bowls because, you know, I kind of hated giving up this because it was a good water bowl. In the summertime I put it out for the dogs, the neighbor's dogs. But you know, sometimes I get so stubborn that I don't want to drive into town to find stuff or go to the dumpster and hope somebody puts something away I can use. And I just say, just get my project done and then move on. Alright, so I appreciate your feedback on this stuff to know if this is even interesting to you. I'm not complaining really, but it takes me time to take the videos, set them up, try to put some decent clothes on to be on TV, which I know is a vain thing, but it's like, you know, I don't want to work in my pajamas or my underwear or whatever to show you what I actually do in real life. But to put the videos together later, I try to edit it, I try to add information like different pictures, still shots, that sort of thing. So it does take me some time, and that's fine because, you know, of course, if I want you to spend your time watching this, if I'm hoping that somebody's interested enough to watch it, then I need to make it worth watching, don't I? So that's kind of where I'm coming from on this. But I could use your feedback and all that sort of thing. Now I have these things here. I don't want them to block my way of my hands, but at the same time, mostly I put it there because once I have my hands dirty with the gloves, I don't want to be taking the gloves off. I don't want to be adding to it later. So I try to do most of this work, especially when I'm alone, so that I can reach everything I need at a time when I'm going to need it, kind of thing. I try to think about the entire process all the way through so that I'm not caught at the last minute going, uh-oh, I need this and I don't have it and I need it now and it's setting up and it's getting hard and blah, blah, blah. So there you go. And I just want this stuff to make sure it contacts with itself, because this really does become really, really hard when it's dry. And it's wonderful. I like this way better than a plaster mold because it is, first of all, it's lighter weight than plaster and takes up less space than plaster, which is nice because once you start making a lot of sculpture, of course, you start thinking about this. Now, I didn't put the blue in yet with this, but it's just kind of gunky stuff, so I thought if I could get sort of a little bit of mixture, you know, break up, look at that. So it went through the whole of this first glove. Luckily, I had the second glove underneath. I'm going to pull that back over here. And I don't know, this black from whatever is in this glove is disintegrating and it's going into this fiberglass. I'm hoping that's not going to be a dangerous thing. So I'm just going to eyeball this syrup. Don't drink it. Don't eat it. Don't drink it. Alright. Anyway, years and years ago when I worked with a casting foundry in Texas, central to Austin, Texas, they explained to me why they don't like plaster molds, and I have loved their logic and I have adhered to that ever since because it was sound advice. But when you're pouring the wax into a sculpture, bas relief is a different thing because it's easier, it's kind of like just one-dimensional almost, but when you're doing a sculpture in the round and you're having to put your wax, you're pushing the mold in all directions, you're pulling it, rolling it in different shapes so that you can get the wax, hot wax, into every little crevice, and you need it to go in there to make your hollow chocolate bunny for the sculpture. You sometimes bang it around on a countertop or something so that you can get all the air bubbles out, okay? So it's very important that you don't have an air bubble between the wax and your mold, because then you've got an airspace instead of bronze on your sculpture, on your finished sculpture work, you know. And you don't necessarily see that when you're chasing the wax, when you're working the wax duplicate of the sculpture. And it's just always better to avoid a problem than have to go back later to fix it, you know. So that's what I mean. It's nice to see the whole process first and then start getting your experience with different shapes and complications. Every sculpture has its own thing. So anyway, I'm going on and on and on about that. But in the process of banging that around to get the stuff, little pieces of plaster, little powders and stuff, can be falling into the mold. And it can mix with your wax, and that means that when you do the lost wax cast and you fire your second mold, which is the ceramic shell slurry mold, when you fire that mold and your wax is melted out, if it's dirty wax, sometimes you're not going to have it all come out properly. So that's one of the things that the casting foundry felt like it was clean work for them to have a fiberglass mold, because it was strong and it was lightweight, so it was easier for them to move it around, but also you just didn't have this thing about, you know, if your plaster mold breaks on you, you're screwed. If your plaster mold is chipping off little pieces of powder everywhere, it's not helping you, so there's no real reason to do that. I'm wondering if I don't have enough blue in there, it's not sticking. So anyway, I like it, but to be fair, fiberglass that's way too much. Fiberglass is going to cost you more up front. But on the other hand, if you're lucky enough to sell a lot of copies of your sculpture, or even make a lot of copies, even if you're making an award as a donation for a foundation you like, or whatever you're doing, million things to your kids or whatever, all of that investment, I mean, a fiberglass mold, if you're making a lot of copies, is going to save you a lot of backache, you know, that kind of thing. In the long run, it'll be a really good thing for you to do. I don't know if I've got too much activator in this, but I'm thinking this is going farther than I thought, so I may be able. And who knows, maybe I don't even have to use all of this for this, but one of the things that I have to admit, that maybe I don't have to admit, but I will because I am who I am. As a sculptor, I don't really see volume that well. So it's difficult for me to know whether this is enough material or not enough. It's difficult for me to see volume sometimes when I'm attempting to do certain things. I just don't know what's going to happen and this and that. So it's just weird that I love to work 3 dimensions, but I don't really see volume the way I feel like I should. I feel like a lot of people probably do and I don't. So now, again, as I mentioned, I don't want to be putting fiberglass over here and not have them touch, because if that hardens and that hardens and they'll stick together later, it's not doing me any favors, and that was kind of a waste of effort. So I'm going to go over here and push this on and make sure that it sticks to what I've already put in, okay? Fiberglass needs to probably dry at least overnight. Right now it's 9 o'clock at night. I was going to try to eat dinner before I did this so I wouldn't have a distraction, but instead I just ate an apple, and now I don't feel hungry at all, honestly. But anyway, rambling about stupid stuff. It's what you do when your brain does this. This is such a nice process, really. If you have the right gloves, then you're not touching the fiberglass. I don't smell it like I did the resin that I used in Texas with John. So I don't really like the idea of me being inside for this cold, but it's February, mid-February, February 20th actually. Today's my Uncle George's birthday. And we had a lovely talk earlier. But anyway, I feel like this is quite workable. Now, when I did this the first time, I was really worried that the fiberglass I could not do alone because of my experience in Texas with the resin. My job was always to cut the fabric pieces, and then I would hand them to John, and he mixed up the resin because, being an engineer, he was very good at all the chemistry mixture stuff that I flat out admit that I don't have the patience to do properly. A stupid thing, really. But anyway, so my job was to be the dry clean hands person and cut the fiberglass big sheets that we got into smaller strips that he could mold, curve around certain places and all this sort of thing. And then he had his hands into the glove, the resin and stuff like that. So yeah, I was the one that could touch the scissors, could touch this and that and the other. So it was nice to have an assistant, but I'm finding that this process here turns out to be manageable. One, my sculpture's smaller, and when I did the other piece, I was really under the panic to get it finished, and it was huge. You know, it was much, much larger project than this is. And I appreciated the help because I was very stressed and worried that I wouldn't do the chemistry well. So that helped give me the experience. Now, one thing I don't like is I should not be reaching into this container with my wet hands that have activator on it, you know, because that little bit of activator can get into there, and it can, maybe the fumes might even start that stuff setting up, and then I've got nothing. So it could be that I may just choose to use all of this fiberglass here just because I have no sculpture projects in my future that are going to require a mold or anything that I know of. I don't know. Or I may just leave some of it. We'll see how it goes. I may leave some of it just out of curiosity whether it sets up or not. But I'm pretty sure that if I do get another project for bronze, or who knows, maybe if I like this process that I'm going to attempt with the cement, I may try to do stuff like that that is good for outdoor stuff, and it saves me the labor and cost of having to go to a foundry. But to be fair, I really like this solid bronze stuff. I like marble better because it is true what my maestro Vasily said once. My friend Vasily was saying that he prefers stone because you'll never melt it down to make bullets into. And bronze sculptures, through the history of bronze sculpting, they have the enemies have confiscated that or needed the metal for other stuff, although I think usually you melt sculptures down. It's for bullet uses, and that's kind of disgusting. So what real artist, I should say, would ever seriously want their work to be reattributed for a cause like that? That's just gross. I'm worried I'm running out of the blue for the material I have, but on the other hand, if I don't come out even, I can let that material sit and then go use it on the next bottle, you know. It's kind of funny because there are times when I wish that I would stick to one subject and either paint or sculpt. Stay with bronze, stay with cement, which of course I haven't been with cement at all. I've done that in the 90s. I tried a couple of things with it, but it wasn't something that took with me. But if I would just stick with one thing, I would do it more often, and that would streamline a lot of my processes. Because back in the 90s, I was lucky enough to get a business mentor, Jack White, who was the Texas State artist in the 1970s, I think he said. And sadly he's gone now, but he was quite a bit older than I was, and actually I've never met him. We just did everything online and email. And I don't think he ever had Facebook, but I don't remember. I think Facebook, I got on it in 2006 when I came to Italy, and one of the American students, young students, said, "Kelly, get on." Young students said, "Kelly, get on Facebook so we can all share pictures." And I didn't really know what to do with that stuff. You know, I kind of didn't really have a lot of time for that. I was too busy having a fun life. And anyway, but he and I emailed each other a lot, and he wrote books about marketing, and he made the mistake of asking me what I think of it. But anyway, there was one point where he said to me in the late 90s, "Kelly, you do too many things. Give up the marine work and give up the stone carving and just do nude bronze figures, okay?" Well, I like nude bronze figures, and I was doing a lot of them at the time. But I was falling in love with stone carving, and I'm very stubborn. But I said, you know, what's the point of me having somebody give me advice if I'm not going to listen to it? And so I tried to do that. But I told him I'm not going to give up stone, but I will give up my ocean theme body of work. And because that's what I did when I was a kid, and I just loved all stuff with my friends like that. And I did get better with figures that year. It was probably 2000, I think, when I went full-time, or maybe, no, 2001, because it was right before September 11th hit. So it was January of that year. In 2000, I sold $10,000 worth of art off of my site. And I have to tell you, I was shocked by that, because I thought the internet would be a marketing tool, but it never occurred to me it would be a selling tool. And anyway, but I was selling my beeswax candles on my website before I was selling my art. I mostly had thought I would just show my grandfather in Minnesota my artwork that I was making, because he was all into email. My grandmother wasn't, and my mom's parents weren't really into that either. But anyway, okay, see, activator, fresh bag of stuff. This is where it would be helpful probably to have an assistant handing me other materials, okay? And look how chunky this stuff is. So I want to break this up a little bit so that I can mix in the blue later with this. And now that my hands are sort of clean, I'm going to go ahead and take a little extra in, because maybe I have enough to try out this idea of getting a flatness on the top. Because not having done this before, I don't know if that's a necessary step, but I think it could be a useful step. Look at that. And you know what? I should try not to cover up the instructions, shouldn't I? It probably tells me don't put this in front of a fireplace. Anyway, goofball. So you can see right here, maybe this is a broken piece of tile. My landlord put in a new bathroom a couple Novembers ago, and I kept a lot of the scraps. because when I'm outside, my little stone pavement, what do you call it, lanai or whatever it is, it's not horizontal. And so when I'm trying to photograph my art, I can put them on an easel and get them fairly vertical and stuff like that, but my tripod needs to do a lot of stuff in it to make it worthwhile. So I always have these random pieces of ceramic and broken roof tiles and broken this and that and the other, and these are great because they're a consistent thickness, so I can use them for a lot of different things that I know a lot of people tell me I should get rid of stuff, but certain stuff I just find useful. Now, while I'm talking, and mixing, I'm actually looking at the mold to see what other places I've missed. I want to see if I can create a nice border at the bottom, at the edge around the wood, to make sure that I've given myself some workable stuff to use. And then also, I want to make sure that not only have I got things covered, but if I have like a seam line between one batch of mold stuff and another, I want to make sure that those are really joined and not just sort of resting one on the other and not going to join. I don't feel like I have enough blue in this still. Goodness, and I'm running out, I think, in my bottle here. It feels pretty light. But the color is pretty good with what I remember. However, look at that. That's not good. I've been dropping this stuff on my floor. That's not good. I may have to leave that on the side. This may be my last coat, actually, because I don't have any more activators. So let me bend down here. I'm not supposed to bend with my back, but I find it very difficult to live a life without bending forward. And so I'm gonna do this. Put this in upside down. That'll catch whatever. Set that there in my trusty dusty. You'll notice I've got newspapers lying on top of my entire table. I actually bought a really cute little tablecloth with olives and things because I love stuff like that, and covered it with a clear plastic because I didn't want anybody spilling wine on it or tea on it or whatever, and I knew that at one point or another I will be working with my table as a sculpture studio, because in winter I pretty much use this fireplace to warm me because it's the most economical thing. So I guess I fell out. It must be more than 23 minutes, eh? Let's see if I can do this. I don't know which hand should take off. Maybe this goes better, I don't know. No, that's totally, look at how, that black glove. Is it gonna keep going there for you? I should turn. Okay, that was not what I wanted to do. I did one of the things I did not want to do. I'm afraid to put this glove back on. I think my camera tends to shut off about 23 minutes or 20 minutes or something, so it gave me an idea. I've been doing this way too long, but I probably should just shut up and put it on speed dial, right? Because it's not so enchanting to watch, but I can always let you put it on speed dial and get past the part that's not useful for you. As a teacher, I can say my general tendency is, and even when I was a supervisor, I preferred for people to have more information than less. My theory always was that if you tell people what the end goal is, then along the process of, even if you've got people having one job along the line, if they get to a point in their own part of the process where they don't know, should I do this or should I do that, if they know what happens to the work on the next steps down, it may help them decide what to do when they're stuck and you're not around to say, well, try this and this. So I was really a big fan, especially when I worked at the photo lab and we had various steps, photographing the negatives, controlling them, doing the chemistry process, all this sort of thing. But I sort of wanted to cross-train my people because, well, one, if somebody's sick, you know, you can't carry on so easily. We had a small business. But also, I felt that it was interesting for people to learn the entire process. And keep them engaged in work was my attitude. I hope that it worked for them too, but I don't know. My feeling was that allow people to do work in their own way. So if they understand the entire process, even down the line, once it's out of our department and into another person's department, or how the work will be used or something, they're free to make their own decisions and can do it with knowledge. And I always felt that that was a smarter way to go. And I hope they did too, but you never know. So I think, did I get, see, I don't want to do like what I did with the rubber there and not put enough to support it, especially where I didn't put the rubber, because since I'm going to be making cement out of this sculpture instead of maybe bronze. I mean, I wanted this 2-part mold to have the option to make bronze, but I don't know. I mean, bottom line is somebody's going to have to pay for it to be in bronze before I cast it in bronze. The days of many artists trying to make products first and then selling them, I think that gets harder down the road when you're talking about the expensive processes. Most people want to have a commission before they invest in something like that. Anyway, that's not a critique necessarily, it's just sort of more like a fact that artists put in so much money and we create so many things, and of course not everything gets bought, and there's a lot of stuff that we make for ourselves or for practice, or frankly that we loved it at the time, maybe we even still love what we made, but nobody else did. And that's the free market, and who knows how that goes. But also everybody's doing art, and it's a healing, fun thing to do, but it also means more competition, and more competition is good for the client, but it means also, the thing about art is that some of us are not just making pretty pictures to decorate with, or to make you laugh, or make you smile. I mean, what we're trying really to do is touch something inside your soul. That is really difficult to do, because I can tell you as a creator, I'm also an art collector, and I can tell you that there are some works by my friends, by other people, some of my collections, that I bought some artwork, but I was always curious, why did I buy this one and not that one? I love them both. Sometimes I liked one more than the other, and then it was a matter of, why did I like this one more? What was different about this than the other? Because it could be the same color palette, for example, on a painting or even a sculpture. Could be the same movement, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi that happens in art. We don't know necessarily why the same artist can have pieces that move me to tears, to awe, to this or that and the other. They could all do these things, but why is it I don't particularly like all of the pieces? So it's just a real thing that happens in the world. And I'm doing a little extra cover here because I haven't mentioned this yet too much. Maybe I did mention it somewhere, that my idea was to separate this face while I'm making the copies. I chose to make the mold of one piece so that if I ever wanted to make a one-piece thing, it would be there. But when I'm pushing the clay in and when I'm making the concrete copies, I want to cut underneath the mustache and make 2 separate pieces out of it, put hooks into each individual section for the installation on a wall without having to undo the plumbing. Okay, so I was thinking I was going to have to add more blue. I can tell that there's some of this gray stuff here. It's really dry. I don't think I have enough. See, and I've got so much material there that, whoops, holy cow, I was not expecting that. So, that was a surprise. Okay, maybe I should not be doing this, so I'm going to twist that close and see if I can reach in here with the glove that has less blue. I don't want to overdo it, and I remembered I needed a lot of blue, so what I was thinking is that I want some blue to go in here. I see the gray is not quite there, and I want it all to touch and fix. And look around, look around. Got to remix now because I've added new materials. Yeah, this bowl is definitely not ever going to be used to feed any dog any water of any kind. I'm not even sure I can clean it out where I wouldn't use it again for the fiberglass, but this, I probably will try to do it. So I'll try to clean this bowl out before this even sets up. You know, it's part of my maintenance. Get on it really fast. Don't worry about dinner. Don't worry about anything else. And try to salvage the bowl because it is a nice shape. It's nice and open. And now that I've done this process alone, I can say, that was helpful. So now, look how stringy that gets. I don't think I mixed it up very well, but what's also happening, I wonder if halfway through I could change the gloves. You know, I've got 2 pairs of gloves on. I don't know if you can see it. And it could be I could take the black ones off, slide in something else over the top, but to be fair, latex over latex I don't think is going to work so well. But it was nice because the black gloves had holes in the fingertips already from the last time I used them. And get off my finger. It's like I got a booger on my finger. I can't get it off. So that's attractive, but you know, I was raised with 3 boys, so what do you expect? Anyway, I blame it on boys. Boys get every kind of gross accolade, but plenty of us girls are gross too. Because people are gross. And you can quote me on that. Okay. So my board idea is not going to work because I can tell the nose was the highest part, and I would basically have to come flat across this place here to make it not wobble from side to side. But the quality, I can try to peel this off in my attempt to clean out the bowl here and put more stuff on here because it's not going to help, it's not going to affect the curing time particularly. But what I don't want to do is have these weird fibers, because you can't see this up close, and sadly I've got my fingers messed up to take pictures with a real camera close up. But I don't want to have any kind of these glass slivers going by. Now, once it's dry, you can take a disc and you can and get off all that glass fiber so that you can touch it without hurting yourself, or storing it without ripping into other things that are nearby, or even grabbing your hands next time you pull it out of storage kind of thing. That's probably a smart thing to do, but you want it to be dry, and of course you need to use a mask so that you don't breathe the glass fibers when you're turning it into dust with the disc. So you want to think safety first, not just for you, but anybody who happens upon your stuff, because let's be fair, at some point we're all going to die, and who knows, maybe somebody else can use my stuff, I don't know. I mean, you have copyright laws, but it could be your heirs that might be using stuff for you and trying to say, whoa, she made these cool masks, I want to make these, and you know, but it's just nice to think of other people. There's not enough of that going on in the world. So I'm going to push this out of the way, because that idea did not fly. But, okay. Yeah. I don't know. You know, I'm thinking about this in hindsight. I wonder if I had put the, what do you call it? The release thing into the bowl, whether that would help me. But I would be afraid that it wouldn't do anything, and it would have maybe changed the chemical makeup of the fiberglass, but I don't know about that. Maybe that's right, maybe that's reaching, maybe it all would evaporate, it would have no meaning on anything, but the point of it was to have it between the rubber and the fiberglass, not necessarily being mixed in with the fiberglass, you see what I mean? So you can see here I'm having trouble because these last little pieces are very fibrous and don't really seem to be doing everything. I can't really see everything that I'm doing here, so I'm hoping that I have it thick enough. And with this spine injury here, I don't have the strength yet to lift even a disc grinder, because even putting wood in that fireplace exhausts me and hurts my spine in the rib cage, where I had that accident and subsequent surgery over 6 months ago. And it's not normal for me to have this pain, so I probably tried to do too much too soon, because I can't stand to not be creating something. Anyway, I can always have somebody else do the disc cleanup, and I can start using this to make a mold without doing that. You can sand the fiberglass at any point. I just think it might be a little easier to do everything when it's new, because then you don't forget about it, for one. So, thing is, if I try to take off at least one glove so that I can have a look around, I was trying to clean out this hole here so that I don't necessarily have a solid thing. I want to know where the mouth is, because it may help me in the casting stuff later. I don't want these random pieces. I want to sort of push. You can't really see it there, but this was kind of a weird scraggly. There's a little piece right there. I want to kind of push that in so I don't have these weird things that I have to grind off. It's so much easier if I can just push this glass into the rest of the mold and not have so much carving to do later. Again, it's trying to make the next step less work. Okay, so add your questions, add your comments, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to my website at borsheimarts.com if you'd like to see finished works. And I love your questions and your feedback. So thanks for watching and bearing with me through this. And I'm kind of curious if this is going to work, but piano, we say. Days are going to be left. So I'm going to try to now take some still shots, and I'll add those at the end of this video, so that you can see. Obviously, gloves are a one-time use. I don't have any problem throwing stuff away. I don't know what I'm going to do with that bowl, but I don't know if it's better to just let that stuff dry and then somehow it flakes out, but I don't think it will. I think it'll stick to the plastic. And thank you for watching. I'm going to grab the camera now and do some of this. I may put on another glove and put some of this around, but I think I'm going to concentrate on cleaning certain things, and I can ball this up and stuff. So I'll do that now, and thanks again. Ciao, ciao.